There's a country where the ocean remembers the blood of martyrs, where sacred houses hold the whispers of ancestors, and where a nation younger than most smartphones hides treasures that predate civilization itself. Timor-Leste, half an island, 1 million souls, and secrets that will shatter everything you thought you knew about Southeast Asia. But here's the question that haunts every traveler who finds this place. How does a country this extraordinary remain invisible to the world? You're about to discover 15 mind-blowing facts about the world's newest democracy, a land where Portuguese prayers echo in Indonesian valleys, where weavers encode family histories in cloth, and where the sea holds biodiversity, records that scientists are still counting. This isn't your typical travel list. These are the stories that reveal why Timor-Leste doesn't just exist, it insists on existing. Before we begin this journey into the impossible, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we need travelers who appreciate the extraordinary hiding in plain sight. And stay until the end because we need to know which of these facts changed how you see the world. Number 1. The Time Traveler's Paradox. In 2002, while the world was getting used to smartphones, Timor-Leste became Earth's newest nation. But beneath this infant democracy lie limestone caves decorated by artists who painted 35 years ago. The Ile Kere Kere caves near Tuchuala hold some of humanity's oldest artistic expressions, handprints, and animal figures that predate European cave art. Picture this. While Neanderthals still walked Europe, humans here were already creating beauty for eternity. These aren't primitive scratches on stone. These are sophisticated compositions that speak to an artistic consciousness that challenges everything we think we know about human development. It's a paradox that defines everything about this place, the newest nation carrying the oldest memories. Modern parliamentarians walk to work past cave entrances where their ancestors first learned to make permanent marks on the world. The contradiction cuts deeper than time. This is a democracy built on foundations older than written history, where constitutional law meets spiritual protocols that governed communities when Rome was just a settlement on 7 hills. But that's just the beginning. Wait until you discover what happened when 3 empires tried to claim this ancient soul. Number 2. The Graveyard of Empires. For over 400 years, this tiny island has been empire kryptonite. The Portuguese built churches and left their language. The Dutch tried and failed to fully control it. Indonesia occupied it for 24 years with brutal force. The result? A cultural fusion so unique it defies categorization. Over 95% Catholic, yet governed by ancient animist law called Lulik. Portuguese is official, yet most speak Tidam and Indonesian. Each attempt at conquest added layers to an identity that refused to be replaced. Here's what's remarkable. They didn't just survive these empires. They absorbed what served them and expelled what didn't, creating something entirely new. Catholic Mass incorporates ancestral prayers. Portuguese legal documents reference traditional land rights. Indonesian becomes the language of commerce, while Tidam remains the language of the heart. They turned cultural invasion into cultural evolution. Each empire that tried to remake Timor-Leste ended up being remade by it instead. Tell us in the comments, have you ever seen a culture this resilient? What does that kind of survival do to a people's spirit? Speaking of survival, what happened in 1999 will break your heart. Number 3. The vote that shook the world. August 30, 1999. Under UN supervision, Timorese voted on their future, join Indonesia permanently, or choose independence knowing it might mean death. 78.5% chose independence. What followed was a scorched earth campaign, 70% of infrastructure destroyed, 400 killed, 300 displaced. The world watched a tiny nation choose freedom over safety, knowing the price would be paid in blood and ash. But here's what the news didn't capture. This wasn't desperation, this was calculated courage. Village elders, mothers with infants, teenagers who'd never known peace, they all understood the odds and voted for tomorrow anyway. They chose the uncertainty of freedom over the certainty of subjugation. Today, children play where buildings once burned, the phrase you'll hear everywhere. Adeus conflitu, benvindu turismo, goodbye conflict, welcome tourism. Not forgetting the past, but refusing to be imprisoned by it. This isn't just history, it's the genetic code of modern Timor-Leste. Every wedding, every harvest ceremony, every shared meal carries the DNA of that impossible choice. And that brings us to something even more extraordinary, a legal system older than any constitution. Number 4. The living law. Forget everything you know about justice systems. In Timor-Leste, when someone steals your buffalo or breaks a marriage promise, you don't call police first, you call the lianan, the owner of words. This is lulik, sacred law that governs relationships between the living, the dead, and the land itself. It's not folklore, it's functional. Village conflicts are resolved through ritual dialogue, compensation payments, and ancestral consultation. The spirits don't just watch, they participate. Most incredible, it works alongside modern courts. Communities use tara bandu, rope-tying ceremonies, to create local laws protecting forests, preventing conflict, and managing resources. The spirits enforce what the state cannot. Imagine justice that repairs relationships instead of punishing individuals. Imagine law that considers the unborn and the ancestors as stakeholders in every decision. This is participatory democracy that's 10 years old. What do you think? Could ancient wisdom solve modern problems? Because what they've done with cloth will completely reframe how you think about memory. Number 5. The fabric of memory. In 2021, UNESCO declared Thais, Timor-Leste's traditional textiles, an endangered heritage requiring urgent safeguarding. But this isn't about preserving museum pieces. These cloths are living libraries. Every region has distinct patterns called feudis. Mumbai clan motifs from Ainaro differ completely from Fataluku designs in Lautem. The patterns encode everything: lineage histories, spiritual protection, agricultural calendars, even resistance messages. A grandmother's loom isn't creating decoration, she's weaving memory into the future. During Indonesian occupation, women wove coded symbols of rebellion into wedding cloths. Secret messages traveled from village to village in patterns that looked like traditional design. Today, no official ceremony happens without Thais exchange. It's how power transfers hands. Each thread connects to ancestral knowledge. Each pattern carries stories that books cannot hold. The motifs aren't just beautiful, they're functional information systems that have preserved cultural knowledge for centuries. Here's the question that should haunt every digital age citizen. In our cloud-stored world, what stories are we losing that cloth remembers? Type 1 in the comments if you think traditional knowledge systems like this could teach modern society something crucial, or 2, if you think digital preservation is more reliable. Speaking of memory, the mountains here guard the most caffeinated secret in Southeast Asia. Number 6. The coffee conspiracy. Timor-Leste produces some of the world's finest organic coffee, not by choice, but by circumstance. For generations, farmers couldn't afford pesticides or fertilizers. What looked like poverty was actually preservation. The highland cooperatives in Ermera and Letafoho grow Arabica under shade trees at 201,800 meters. Every bean is hand-picked, sun-dried on family patios, and processed using methods unchanged for decades. This primitive agriculture produces specialty-grade coffee that commands premium prices in Melbourne and Seattle. Here's the twist. The farmers who couldn't mechanize accidentally created perfection. Their economic limitations forced them to maintain practices that specialty roasters now pay premiums to replicate. Necessity became excellence. But the real magic happens when you sit on a village porch, sipping coffee grown meters away, while the farmer explains how each tree connects to ancestral land rights. That's not just caffeine, that's connection to place that modern life has forgotten. The mountains that couldn't afford modern farming ended up preserving what modern farming is trying to recover. And if mountain magic isn't enough, wait until you see what lives beneath their waves. Number 7. The underwater universe. 40 minutes by boat from the capital sits Ataro Island, and beneath its waters lies something that will redefine how you think about marine life. This small, arid island sits in the center of the Coral Triangle and holds the world record for marine biodiversity. Scientists have documented over 20 fish species in these waters, more than the entire Caribbean Sea. The numbers sound impossible until you descend into this underwater universe. But here's what makes it extraordinary. This isn't a protected national park with million-dollar budgets, it's community-run conservation. Fishing villages use traditional Tara Bandhu ceremonies to create no-take zones, rotating fishing grounds, and species protection. Ancient law protecting future abundance, village elders making conservation decisions that shame most modern governments. They understood ecosystem management before the term existed, implementing practices that Western marine biology is still trying to perfect. The spirits of the reef are alive and well, guarded by people who never needed a marine biology degree to understand the ocean's rhythm. But the sea isn't the only place where spirits dwell. Number 8. The Forbidden Island. At Timor-Leste's eastern tip lies Joko Island, a paradise of white sand and turquoise water that looks photoshopped. But there's a catch: the spirits decide who can visit. This uninhabited island is sacred to the Fataluku people. No one can stay overnight. No development is allowed. Even day trip access requires permission from traditional authorities and proper ritual observance. Visitors must approach with respect, leave before sunset, and follow protocols that have protected this place for centuries. Imagine pristine nature protected not by park rangers with guns, but by cultural protocols that have worked for centuries. The island remains untouched because local law matters more than tourist dollars. It's conservation through spirituality, the most effective environmental protection on Earth. While other paradises get loved to death by Instagram crowds, Joko Island stays perfect because tradition sets the boundaries. Which raises a fascinating question for all of us consuming travel content. What if the best way to preserve paradise is to admit we don't own it? But speaking of things that shouldn't exist, Number 9. The Vertical Pilgrimage. Every October, thousands of Timorese begin climbing at 2 a.m. Their destination, Tatamilo, Mount Ramelow, the country's highest peak at 986 meters. But this isn't recreational hiking. At the summit stands a statue of the Virgin Mary, and the climb is a pilgrimage, families carrying candles, praying at stations of the cross, seeking blessings for the year ahead. The mountain becomes a vertical cathedral where Catholic faith and ancient earth worship merge into something transcendent. Here's what's profound. In a world where we climb mountains to conquer them, Timorese climb to surrender to something greater than themselves. The sunrise reveals not just landscape but spiritual geography. Each step up is a step inward. It's humility practiced at altitude, the opposite of Instagram mountaineering. The goal isn't the summit selfie, but the spiritual transformation that happens in darkness before dawn. Tell us in the comments, when did worship become about reaching high places instead of finding inner peace? What do you think this mountain pilgrimage offers that modern spirituality has lost? And when they descend, they return to valleys where dinner is cooked in the most ingenious way imaginable. Number 10. The Bamboo Kitchen. Forget everything you know about outdoor cooking. In Timor-Leste's mountains, they've perfected a technique that turns bamboo into the world's most sustainable kitchen. Tukir, marinated buffalo or goat meat sealed inside fresh bamboo stalks, then slow-cooked over open fire for hours. The bamboo becomes both pot and flavoring agent, steaming the meat to impossible tenderness while infusing it with subtle woody notes. Here's the genius. When dinner is done, the entire cookware composts back into the forest. Zero waste, maximum flavor, using tools that grow around your village. It's molecular gastronomy with Stone Age tools. This cooking method is so effective that Highland restaurants in Australia now copy it for 80 plates. But in the mountains of Timor-Leste, it's just Tuesday night dinner, cooked the same way great-grandmothers did it. Tell us in the comments, when did we forget that the best technology sometimes grows on trees? But if you think bamboo kitchens are surprising, wait until you learn what happened to their language. Number 11. The Linguistic Miracle. Most conquered languages die. Timor-Leste's multiplied. Despite 24 years of Indonesian occupation that banned local languages and forced Bahasa Indonesia in schools, something extraordinary happened. Instead of disappearing, Tetum, the local lingua franca, absorbed Portuguese, Indonesian, and local dialects into a hybrid that reflects the entire cultural journey. It's linguistic evolution in real time, creating new grammar patterns and vocabulary that didn't exist before colonization. Today, Tetum and Portuguese are official languages, but most people speak 3-4 languages fluently. Indonesian for business, Tetum for daily life, Portuguese for ceremony, plus their clan language for home. They turned forced multilingualism into cultural superpower. It's as if the culture decided to collect every linguistic treasure from every occupier and weave them into something uniquely Timorese. They turned cultural invasion into cultural enrichment. When was the last time you saw colonization backfire this beautifully? But the most shocking resistance story is written in the sky above Dili. Number 12. The Giant of Hope. Rising 27 meters above Dili Bay stands Cristo Rey, and its story will give you chills. This massive Christ statue was built in 1996, 3 years before independence, while Indonesia still occupied the country. Officially, it was a gift from Indonesia to show religious tolerance. Unofficially, it became the ultimate act of defiance. Every weekend, thousands of Timorese climbed its 14 stations of the cross, ostensibly for Catholic devotion, actually for national prayer. The occupying power built a monument to resistance without realizing it. Each prayer at Cristo Rey was a petition for freedom. Each sunrise service was a gathering of the unconquered. The statue became a rallying point that the occupiers couldn't tear down without admitting what it really meant. Today, Cristo Rey isn't just a tourist attraction, it's a victory monument. Every sunset here is proof that some things cannot be conquered, that faith can be weaponized without violence, that hope can be carved in stone and concrete. Which brings us to a biological mystery that has scientists rewriting textbooks. Number 13, the Evolution Laboratory. Timor-Leste sits at one of Earth's most important biological crossroads, where Asian and Australian species meet, mix, and create new life forms. The mountains hold species found nowhere else on Earth. The Timor green pigeon, Timor stubtail, dozens of endemic plants that evolved in isolation. It's like finding Darwin's notebook still being written. But here's what's mind-blowing. New species are still being discovered annually. In 2019, scientists found new frog species in the highlands. In 2020, new plant varieties. Evolution is happening in real time, creating biodiversity at a pace that challenges everything we thought we knew about speciation. This tiny country, smaller than Connecticut, holds more evolutionary experiments per square kilometer than almost anywhere on Earth. The isolation that created political resilience also created biological treasures. Both stories prove the same truth: sometimes being cut off from the world is exactly what creates the most extraordinary life. But not all of their treasures come from isolation. Number 14. The Crocodile Guardians. The southern beaches of Timor-Leste hide a secret that keeps most tourists away: saltwater crocodiles that grow up to 20 feet long and are considered sacred by local communities. These aren't just predators, they're spiritual guardians. Traditional stories tell of crocodiles that helped Timorese ancestors travel between islands. Killing one brings terrible consequences from both law and ancestors. The result? Some of the most pristine coastal ecosystems in Southeast Asia. Locals know exactly where to fish, where to swim, where to avoid. They've coexisted with these giants for generations using knowledge passed through song and story. It's conservation through controlled fear, the most effective marine protection money can't buy. Nature's bouncer service, spiritually endorsed. While other coastlines get overdeveloped and overfished, these beaches remain perfect because ancient law protects them better than any marine park. Tell us, would you rather have overcrowded beaches or pristine ones guarded by living dinosaurs? Type Crocs in the comments if you think this is brilliant conservation, or beach if you'd rather have safe swimming. But for truly perfect preservation, you need to see their hidden lake. Number 15. The Mirror of Nations. In the eastern grasslands near Los Palos lies Lake Ira Lalaro, Timor-Leste's largest lake and a perfect metaphor for the nation itself. Surrounded by savanna that looks more like Africa than Asia, fed by seasonal rains that make it disappear and reappear, home to fish species that adapt to changing water levels, this lake survives by transforming. Just like Timor-Leste itself, a nation that shrinks and expands with circumstance, that adapts without losing essence, that reflects whatever sky appears above it while maintaining its own depths. At sunset, when the water becomes a mirror, you understand why locals call it the country's eye. It sees everything, reflects truth, and holds mysteries in its depths. Standing here, you realize this isn't just a lake, it's a meditation on impermanence and endurance. The lake teaches the ultimate lesson about survival. Sometimes you have to disappear to ensure you'll return. Here's what every fact reveals. Timor-Leste doesn't exist despite the odds against it. It exists because of those odds. Every challenge, Portuguese colonization, Dutch competition, Indonesian occupation, economic isolation, forced innovations that created something unprecedented. Sacred law evolved to work with modern courts. Ancient agriculture produced premium products. Isolation preserved biodiversity and culture. This is a masterclass in adaptive resilience. A tiny nation that turned every attempted conquest into cultural DNA, every limitation into strength, every ending into beginning. The 1999 referendum wasn't just about independence, it was about the right to remain different in a homogenizing world. To insist that small, traditional, spiritually centered societies have something irreplaceable to offer. In an era when every place starts looking like every other place, Timor-Leste chose to amplify its uniqueness rather than hide it. So here's the question that changes everything. What if the future doesn't require choosing between tradition and progress? What if it requires weaving them together, like patterns in a taste? Remember our opening question: how does a country this extraordinary remain invisible? Maybe the answer is that Timor-Leste was never trying to be visible to the world. It was trying to be visible to itself, to its ancestors, its spirits, its future generations. In a world obsessed with being seen, they perfected the art of being. While we scroll through hundreds of destinations daily, they created one place worth staying. The secret they've been keeping isn't about tourism or hidden gems. It's about what happens when a culture refuses to disappear, when survival becomes an art form, when resistance becomes creativity, when memory becomes the foundation for dreams. They're not preserving the past, they're proving the past can dance with the future without stepping on its toes. If these stories moved you, if they made you see resilience differently, if they sparked questions about what we really need to be happy, then this matters. Share this video with someone who believes small places can't change big perspectives. Comment below with the fact that surprised you most, but more than that, tell us, which of these truths about Timor-Leste challenges something you believed about culture, progress, or survival? And if you want to keep exploring places where ancient wisdom meets modern challenges, where cultures write their own rules, where the impossible becomes daily life, subscribe for journeys that reveal how much mystery still lives in our mapped world. Because some stories can only be told by those brave enough to remain themselves in a world that demands conformity.